All right, today we're breaking down a single, really controversial move that could basically redraw the map of power in the Red Sea. We're going to dive into an analysis of Israel's alleged new strategy in the Horn of Africa and figure out why recognizing this tiny breakaway state could have such massive consequences for, global trade and regional stability.
Okay, so what's the central question here? I mean, why would Israel, all of a sudden, make a move to officially recognize a breakaway region in Somalia? Well, the analysis we're digging into suggests the answer is all about a calculated play for strategic influence over the future of the Red Sea.
To really get why this is such a big deal, we first need to get to know the key players involved in this really surprising announcement.
So first up, you've got Somaliland. Now, this is a self-declared republic that actually broke away from Somalia decades ago. It has its own government, it functions like a country, but, and this is the crucial part, not a single UN member state officially recognizes it. So it's basically been left totally isolated on the world stage.
And this is where the whole story just takes a really sharp turn. The analysis we're looking at says that Israel's government announced it would formally recognize Somaliland. I mean, this is a huge deal. It would completely shatter decades of international agreement on Somalia's borders.
So to really understand the why behind this whole decision, you first have to understand the where. Because let me tell you, this is not just some political gesture. It's all about securing a key position on a very, very strategic chessboard.
You see, the analysis we're looking at describes the Red Sea as effectively an Arab lake. And what does that mean? Well, for decades, the coastlines have been controlled almost exclusively by Arab and African nations. That gives them immense influence over one of the world's most vital shipping routes. So, for any outside power, that's a really tough barrier to break through.
I mean, just look at the nations here. You've got Egypt and Saudi Arabia up north, all the way down to Djibouti and Somalia in the south. What you see is this near unbroken wall of nations that belong to either the Arab League or the African Union. For Israel, its only access is through one tiny little port way at the top.
So, what is the strategic play here? According to the analysis, it's a multi-layered strategy, and it's one designed to fundamentally reshape the entire balance of power in the region.
Okay, the analysis breaks it down into 4 key goals. Goal number 1, establish a military and intelligence base right on this vital waterway. 2, get a better vantage point to monitor missile threats coming out of Yemen. 3, create some new leverage against Egypt. And finally, number 4, push back against the growing influence of rivals like Turkey.
But wait, the analysis digs even deeper. It highlights commentary that it found in some Israeli online circles, and it points to bloggers who are allegedly calling not just for pressure, but for a strategy to actively destabilize and divide neighboring states. We're talking Turkey, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia.
And then the analysis points to an even more explosive idea, one allegedly floated by an Israeli blogger. This one connects the Somaliland move directly to the conflict in Gaza. The suggestion is that this new alliance could open the door for a so-called transfer of Palestinians to countries in the Horn of Africa.
So, as you can probably imagine, the region's reaction to this reported announcement was, well, it was loud and clear. According to the analysis, the backlash was swift, it was strong, and it was remarkably unified.
The analysis reports immediate and just fierce condemnation from all the key players. Yet Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey, plus, of course, Somalia itself, they all rejected the move. The African Union also jumped in with a strong statement calling it a flat-out violation of a member state's sovereignty.
Now the analysis also makes this really fascinating claim about the media coverage inside Israel. It alleges that major outlets focused heavily on the reactions from Turkey and Saudi Arabia, while at the same time either downplaying or completely ignoring the furious response from their immediate neighbor Egypt.
So, facing this unified wall of opposition, where does that leave this new partnership? Well, the analysis we're examining makes a very bold prediction about its future.
And this really brings us to the core argument of the entire analysis, that this high-stakes gamble is just not sustainable and is ultimately doomed to fail. The conclusion here is that it's a provocative move that has created way more problems than it could ever hope to solve.
So what's the reasoning for this prediction? Well, it's pretty straightforward. First, you've got that united front from powerful neighbors like Egypt and Turkey, which creates immense pressure. Second, the analysis argues that any Israeli personnel on the ground would be incredibly vulnerable, and it points to the bombing of the USS Cole back in 2000 as a chilling reminder of those risks. And finally, there's the simple fact that Israel's military is already stretched pretty thin.
And all of this leads to one final, lingering question. By making this move, Has Israel accidentally turned the Horn of Africa into the world's next major geopolitical flashpoint? According to this analysis, whether the alliance succeeds or fails doesn't even matter at this point. The pieces are now in place for a new and potentially very volatile regional showdown.